everybody. I'm Larry Roberts.
And I'm Sarah Losi, and this is Brandon, your comprehensive guide to creative branding.
And on this episode of the podcast, we're going to hijack the conversation by talking about brand hijacking.
This just happened to you. So I know for you, this is a kind of a hot topic and maybe a little sensitive topic. So let's just go into what just happened.
I'm actually a little nervous because I'm flying to New York tomorrow to meet this individual for the first time. And what had happened is that a friend of mine recommended me as a project lead for this build out for. I've signed an NDA, a very extensive NDA. So it's a project. We'll just put it that way. That's AI driven. I guess I can say that much. But when the lady that owns the company that wants to build the app started looking at my website, she saw my red hat and instantly went into a tirade because she felt my hat represented certain things that it does not represent. And I mean, I'll be honest, it's not the first time that someone went, "Hey, is that a MAGA reference there?" Which it most definitely is not a MAGA reference at all. You guys listening to the podcast, unless it's your first time, you probably know the red hat story, and the actual red hat that it's based on is sitting back there on that shelf right about there, because it just came from a talk that I did where I was wearing a Supreme hat, which was red. And since Supreme wasn't paying me, I went ahead and switched to an unbranded red hat and became the red hat guy. But the whole point there is that she instantly assumed that she knew my core values and my core principles and knew everything about me just because I had a red hat on. And that's just strictly not the case. So it got us wondering, when Sarah and I were talking about it, are there other brands that have experienced something similar where they got hijacked? And doing a little bit of research, man, it's more common than you would think.
Yeah, and I think what really stands out with a lot of the examples that we found is not necessarily what happened, but how they responded. And I know we talked way early in the show, one of the first episodes, we talked about like the different components of a brand. And one of the ones that we talked about was brand perception. And it's the part that you can't actually control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part of a brand to manage is public perception and how people think about you, how they feel about you, what they think of when they see you. And where we align our brands and the different organizations or individuals that we choose to be associated with, that has an impact on that perception. And I'm going to be honest, like I'm surprised it took this long for there to be some big, like, I don't want to say like scandal, but like something big with your hat. Like I'm really surprised. I've been waiting. Like something's going to happen.
It's not the first time, but it's the most extreme. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I typically, probably half a dozen times or so, I've been pulled to the side and hey, is that a MAGA hat? What are you doing there? You know, I've had that little whisper in my ear asking if that's what it was, but I've never had this level of backlash. And it actually made me, I still am nervous to even engage with this potential individual. I feel like I'm already like on my heels, I'm already trying to maintain my balance and trying to maintain any sense of credibility because I was previously judged by an article of clothing.
As a woman, I can say, welcome to the club.
Okay. I could see that little Susie short skirt. Yeah, I see where you go with that. Yep.
Welcome. It's not fun, is it?
No, it's very off-putting. I'll put it that way. And I debated whether or not I was going to go out there. And honestly, I'm still super tentative. I just the whole thing makes me a nervous wreck, and I just think there's the potential for it. When you sign an 8-page NDA and you have minimal communication with the potential client, it doesn't give you a sense of ease.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky one, and hopefully it works out fine because I mean it's not what it is, and I think that person, they did their own research afterwards and understood that. But this is kind of what we're going to talk about too, which how you handled it, and whether you do decide to move forward or pull back and all of that. And I mean, one of the things that you're clearly doing is staying with your brand
Oh yeah,
despite,
I'm not going to sacrifice
yeah.
the. However, and I can't reach it right now, but I did buy a gray hat to wear to New York. So, but I can't wear any
Did
hats.
you?
She made yeah, I've got it's a heather gray hat
Oh.
to wear to New York. I didn't.
Why would
Yeah,
you already have a pink one you could have worn?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably would have fit in New York even better than a lot better than the red hat. But it's just wild because it's got me thinking in ways that I never thought about before. It's just I don't understand inherent hostility based on assumptions. And the way that I handled it was that we had a call last week, and I was going to base my decision on that call. And when I got on the call, I attempted to tell the red hat story and where it really came from. And apparently, her assistant had already done her homework, and so she knew, but she acknowledged it, but she also acknowledged it in a very condescending tone. It
Hmm.
was almost like an aggressive acknowledgement. If there is, it's just it just didn't quite set right. But then I go, okay, well, she is a New Yorker, and New Yorkers have a way of communicating that us Southern folk may take a little offense to because they are so blunt. So
Excuse me, I'm not blunt.
you're a little blunt,
I
little blunt.
am not. Excuse me. What are you implying?
I'm just implying that their communication style isn't inherently offensive to them, but we can make assumptions that they're meaning certain things that they're not meaning. So, just because of the bluntness, it could come across a little harsh. So, I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, have that conversation, and see where it went. And by the end of the conversation, we were talking about sharing a car and riding all over the city and blah blah blah. So I felt somewhat at ease. But then at the same time, they were supposed to send me documentation that I still don't have. So now I'm flying into New York completely blind, unable to do any homework whatsoever. So, I mean, I have an idea of what I'm walking into, but I don't know what to expect. So it almost feels like I'm being set up for failure.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
It's
So,
I wonder like how, I mean, it's not like something we could ever know, but how the situation would have been different if like that never happened. Like if your brand wasn't the red hat or that there wasn't that negative like
yeah.
from the start, like
Yeah.
would communication have been different? Would you already have all the stuff that you needed? Like would they have been more accommodating? Like super curious. I wish
Yeah,
like we could
and
know that.
I have a feeling it would have been just
Yeah.
because the tirade that she went on, talking about how ignorant can he be? Doesn't he know about the pillow guy? Doesn't he see what they're doing to Elon? Doesn't he see
The
this? And what?
pillow guy?
Yeah, it was what was it? My Pillow or something like that. Those custom pillows, and he was a big Trump supporter, and so
Right.
they eviscerated him, and
Yeah.
I don't even know if he's in business anymore. I maybe he is,
Right.
but anyways, she brought all those examples up. So I mean, in my head, that tells me that she already has an inherent uh, opinion on my business acumen. It's like I'm already going in with that hit because I was too stupid to change my brand. That's just the way it feels. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but
I guess we'll find out. We'll see how it goes.
we will.
Come back
We,
in a couple weeks for an update, y'all.
we will find out Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Yep, we'll find out when we sit down in there and see where it goes.
So let's talk about some other examples because, like you said, this happens all the time. And
Yeah,
when we were kind of doing our homework, there were some negative ones, of course. There were some positive ones. And then I think there are ones that it's not even negative or positive, it just takes on a life of its own. Like the one that I automatically think of when I think like, and it doesn't even feel like hijacking because hijacking has like a negative connotation.
sure.
Like hijacking just sounds bad. But I think of Volkswagen.
Yeah, it sounds bad, especially when I'm
Yeah.
getting on a plane.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. But like hijacking doesn't sound good.
no,
But with like Volkswagen, if I see like the VW and like the whether it's like the bug or the little van, I think of like the hippie movement and peace and happy, and it's like I don't think of a car. I don't think of a
Right.
car brand. I don't think of Germany. I think it's German. Like,
It
I
is
don't,
German. It was actually created by Hitler.
oh, that's good. So now I no longer associate that with peace.
Well, that's the irony, man. It was created by something that does not represent peace at all. But it's interesting to see the evolution of the brand over the decades to where it does equate to peace now. It
That's
it
kind of
does.
ironic
Yeah,
because the original meaning of the swastika symbol, it was a symbol of peace. And then he took it, flipped it, and now it's definitely not. So that's kind of, they went the opposite way.
there's a whole lot of interesting conversation to be had
Huh.
there. Yeah. So that's
Weird.
why if you think back, who was it? Golly, I want to say it was Meg Ryan, but it wasn't Meg Ryan. It was some other actress, and she made a big deal. Maybe it was Gwyneth Paltrow. She made a big deal out of selling her Tesla and buying a Volkswagen.
What for,
Well, because the
like a
Tesla, she got
lateral
rid of the.
move?
I guess it was just a statement that she was getting rid of her Tesla because she's anti Elon because he's a Nazi and this and that. But then she goes and she literally buys a real Nazi car.
Huh.
Didn't
I
work
mean,
out very well.
I support selling the swastika, but maybe choose like Ford or
Maybe
something.
yeah.
Like maybe go like American.
But
Like
yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how especially the VW bus, and my understanding is there's a resurgence of the VW bus coming
yeah,
around
but
now. Like
that's,
they're
and that's like a nostalgia kind of like hippie mentality. The people who want them are what the, it's kind of almost tied to like the van life movement.
yeah,
Like the
yeah,
people who are like want to live, and I was all for this. I almost bought a camper van before I bought my house. But I wanted to like build out a little camper van and just go around the country living in this little van. And like that is a huge thing, and it's all nature and outdoors,
sure,
and it's all like, that's what you associate that like logo with now. And if you, I've gotten like sticker packs that are supposed to be just about like peace, happy, and there's Volkswagen logos in it, and
of
like
course,
the little buses, like it's completely unrelated,
yeah,
and
yeah.
yet it's there, completely took on a life of its own.
Yeah, I mean that's a positive example of a brand
Mhm.
hijacking. Unintended consequences that are really really beneficial for the brand because I guarantee you those sales are through the roof because of the nostalgia factor and because of the brand hijacking and
Yeah.
because of the peaceful movement and the flowers and the
Yeah.
beads and all the fun stuff, all the fun 70s type
And then
stuff.
the other irony there is that they also were involved in like Dieselgate and like faking their emissions results. And then they got tied to anti environmental and environmental damage. So it's like over here, it's flowers and sunshine. And over here, it's not so much.
Not so much.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of irony and dichotomy with that brand.
So there is a ton. There is a ton. So it
Huh.
makes you wonder, how do you balance that, and how do you manage a brand hijacking? I mean, do you address it? Do you hide from it? Do you backpedal on it? I mean, what do you do? Because we've seen on some of the biggest brands out there, whether it's Bud Light, whether it's Target, whether it's Nike with the Colin Kaepernick thing, we saw where there was a lot of wishy washy going back and forth, and I
Yeah.
think that did more damage to the brands than the initial conflict.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to go back and just look at your brand values and look at like, what does your brand stand for? What do you want it to stand for? What do you want it to be associated with? But overall, I mean, backpedaling or ignoring is never going to have a good outcome. And I think the only brands that really came out on the other side in a positive way are the ones that addressed it and leaned more into it. Like Nike leaned into it.
Yeah,
They had the opportunity to be like, oh, this is not, we're not making this political. This has nothing to do with protest. This is like Colin Kaepernick was just a campaign and we're over here. That's not related. But no, they leaned into it and they went all in on the messaging and aligning their brand with social justice. And did they lose some support from one side? Yes, but they gained more than they lost because people are more likely to be like brand loyal and support a brand if they are aligned with the cause they support. So they open themselves up to an entire audience just based on that value.
See, and I think it's just supporting the message, whatever that message is. Stand on your ground. You know what I mean? What do all those wacky kids say? Stand on business. Is that what it is? Stand on your business. Is that what it is?
What?
No. But yeah, I think it's just making sure that you stand your ground. If you have conflict that arises from a brand, to backpedal, I think is the absolute worst thing you can do.
And do your homework. Like, if you're going to align yourself and let somebody else become the face of your brand, you better know who that person is and know what their intentions are, know what their brand is. Like, don't just be like, oh, this person's popular, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, you have to do your homework. And like you briefly mentioned the Bud Light one, and I don't know what side of that you're on, but I think that they handled that so poorly.
The
And
the thing with me is I don't even really know. I mean, I
mhm,
know the messaging does not resonate with a Bud Light crowd. I mean, Bud Light is inherently masculinity and maybe even toxic masculinity. And I think the lady that did the ad, she hated the frat boy image that went along with Bud Light. But I think from that perspective, regardless of what the message is, you have to know your audience. You,
so
you can't just go and flip the script and go the totally opposite direction and hope that it
yeah,
resonates with your audience.
what happened there? It was they had a brand deal with Dylan Mulvaney,
Mm-hmm.
who was a TikTok influencer, and she was a trans woman, and she was doing these like days of girlhood and celebrating like coming into her identity, and it was if you ever watched her videos, she was sunshine in a person. Like, just everything was kindness, happiness, love. Like, let's just let people be people and support each other. It was a very positive message. And they did a brand deal, and she was just going to put like some content out to her audience and her followers. And of course, it goes past that. So then the other audiences found it, and Bud Light's typical audience is not that.
No,
So
not at all.
they blew up and they were pissed. And what it was, I think what Bud Light was trying to do was reach a new audience, but they did it in like, I guess they didn't realize how like volatile their initial audience was,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Well, I think
complete
too, it's the messaging because obviously the lady that ran that, I can't think of her name, but I can see her face because she just signed on with Live Golf. So now she's doing their campaigns, which should be interesting to see where that goes.
like
But
the influencer or the like the brand manager or
not
something.
not not Dylan, the brand
Oh,
manager,
okay.
the marketing expert, quote unquote expert.
Gotcha.
Uh, yeah, because they got rid of
She
her
got another
promptly.
job.
Yeah, she got another job, believe it or not. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out because I literally just read about it either yesterday or
Yeah.
today. She just completely attacked the existing audience, and you can't do that. I mean, you have to know your audience, and if you're trying to get a new audience or
Well,
tap into a new audience, you can't isolate and
there was
discriminate
no
against the existing
attack
one.
on any
Oh, she said she
audience.
hated the frat boy brand the
Oh wait,
branding
okay,
was
you're
for
talking
for.
about the manager.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought you meant like what like the Dylan content
Oh
and what
no,
oh, okay.
I don't know anything about the Dylan
Okay.
content. I don't think I
So
mean
yeah,
I've
I don't know
seen.
anything about the brand manager. I just know like the other side of it.
Yeah, and I'm just the opposite. I don't know a whole
Mhm.
lot about Dylan. Never watched their content, so it's not something that I can really. It does not resonate with me. So 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 I'll just leave it at that point right there. I think that's fair. But again, it just goes back to knowing your audience and not hijacking your own brand through. I don't know, man. It just seems like gross negligence.
Yeah. And that was another case of they did not stand by it. Like they
Yeah,
apologized for it. They abandoned Dylan, and she was getting death threats and being completely attacked and eviscerated, shut down her social media for a while. Like it was really bad for
didn't they go to
her.
Venezuela or something?
Oh, I don't know.
Pretty sure they
Maybe.
moved to Venezuela for a while.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised, literally getting death threats.
Yeah.
But they completely abandoned her and were like, okay, you deal with the fallout over there. We're going to go back to promoting to sports guys and frat boys, and just tried to kind of sweep it under the rug. Not a good look.
Not a good look. Not a good
Not a
look at
good
all.
look.
So, I mean, that's kind of the point here, though, and there's so many other examples. We talked about Nike. Target came under fire for some LGBTQ advertising that they did there as well. And they kind of, what do you call it, flip-flop back and forth in
Yeah.
regards to that. So that was a
Some
struggle.
stores pulled it, some stores didn't. They did not handle it well.
I think it just depended on your market segment there, where you were in the country, as to whether or not they pulled the ad
Probably.
campaign. But again, it just goes to show that regardless of what you do, you have to stand behind it, and you have to be able to live with the consequences and address them accordingly. So
Yeah. And it goes both ways too. If you are if you're on big on social media, you're quote unquote influencer, and you're getting offers for brand deals, do your research.
yeah,
Do not accept brand deals just because they're offered to you. Know
which can be
who those
extremely tempting.
companies are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can be extremely tempting.
it's like all checks
But
cash the same,
yeah, they all spend the same, boy. That's
but
what I'm
they
telling
don't.
myself while I fly to New York this weekend. It all spends the same. Yay.
But there's
So,
always going to be that tie to that brand, and you're always going to be associated with that brand. And if you allow that to happen, that's fine, but make sure it is a brand that you stand behind and that they're going to stand behind you. And it's not just a PR stunt for them, and then they're going to just kind of wash their hands of it.
right on. So I think the real key takeaways here is clarity and values matters more than neutrality.
Yeah.
Again, stand by your business and support your decisions that you make. And I think you made a very valid point too, in that brand hijacking is not always a negative thing.
Yeah.
It was a negative thing with me, but with VW, Farfignugan in there, they're doing just fine. With that, don't want to hijack this conversation any more than we already have.
Probably fair.
Yeah, probably fair. Oh my God, that was a terrible close. I'm not
The
firing on all
Farfig
cylinders.
Newton was not recorded.
What?
The Farfig Newton was not while we were recording. That was pre-recording. No one knows what Farfig Newton means.
Everybody knows what Farfignugan is. Farfignugan. There it is right there.
The cookie?
No. Farbernugan. Farbernugan, not Farfegnugan, is a German word that translates to driving enjoyment or the pleasure of driving. It was famously used in a Volkswagen advertising campaign in the U.S. The term Farfignugan was originally a neologism. What the heck is that? Created for the ad campaign, not standard German.
I thought you just made up a noise.
Negative. Nope, it's legit.
Oh.
So let's get the Farfignugan out of here, shall we? Hey, if you got some value out of this episode and we didn't hijack your day, do us a favor, slam that subscribe button so we can continue to bring these amazing episodes each and every week. With that, I am Larry Roberts.
I'm Sarah Losey, and we'll talk to you next week.